Some of the first tools that many of us paper crafters buy are paper punches. What tends to happen though over time is that we forget about them. They get popped into a drawer and not used nearly as much as they should be. It is day 10 of my Christmas stash busting challenge, where I'm creating as many Christmas projects as possible to use up my forgotten Christmas stash. Yesterday, I used my punches to create some simple last-minute Christmas cards. And while they're still on my desk, I thought, why not create a scrapbook layout? This idea is perfect for those Santa photos we all have. It's time to get started. I'll be creating with mittens and mistletoe collection today, and here is my ugly pattern paper. This print is far too busy for my liking, especially considering I'm working with this photo. I'm also working with this cut file. I'll be sure to link it below. I've cut it out super large. I want it to fill the entire background of the layout. I won't be backing the design today because I just don't have time for that. Remember, all of these projects that are in the 12 days of Christmas need to be completed within an hour. If you're not sure what my Christmas stash busting challenge is, be sure to check the description box below for all the details. I'd love it if you played along, and it is not too late to join in. I want the cut file to sit flat to the background, so I am going to glue it into position. I did want to show you here though just how little glue you need. I put the smallest amount ever on my cut files because I don't want any of the glue oozing through to the edges. It's not a very nice look. If ever I'm working on large areas of a cut file, I find it easier to do it backwards, just like I have there. Once my glue was all dry, I did run this through my sewing machine just to add a little stitched detail. It's time to pull out my ugly pattern paper, and I am using one of the strategies I talked about in depth in this video here. If you have a bunch of ugly papers in your stash, you need to watch that one. I'll also leave a link in the description box below. So here's what I found. Ugly papers tend to be much less ugly when they're used in small sections. So that is the big strategy that I'm going to use on this layout. I've pulled out my border punch and I'm going to create some paper strips. I've also found a contrasting pattern paper in the collection, and I'm going to repeat the process with that one. I'm then going to cut these pieces into 6-inch lengths and make them not quite so wide. I've done this with quite a few different border punches now, and the strips always look better when they're a little bit thinner. With that done, I'm going to mount my photo and then nut out the design for the page. I do have the cut file in the background and it is running landscape, so very left to right. It's also text, so your eye will want to naturally read that left to right. So I've got to keep with the flow of all of that. That leads me to want to put the photo on the left, and therefore my paper layers, these strips that we've created, will go on the right. I talk a lot about flow and layout design on the channel, so if you're not already, I would love it if you would subscribe to learn more. So I do need to show you how to make these layers, and it is a bit tricky because you have to pre-plan their position. You also have to work from the bottom up. I position the first row and secure it with a liquid adhesive. Once that's dry, I then add a stitched line across the top edge. I then come back to my desk and position the next row. I then add the stitching again along that top edge of the banner piece. I use my T-square ruler as I'm going to make sure everything is very, very straight. I just continue to work row by row from bottom to top. The other thing that I'll mention here is that when you're placing the rows, you'll want to stagger them slightly. do not line them up perfectly. You want the edge on the right there to be staggered and interesting, and you don't want the scallops to be exactly aligned. Once all your rows are in place, you can then add the texture. So I just pop my finger in between the rows and ruffle them up a little bit just to stop them from being so flat on the page. I also do like to vary the lengths of the rows. That top row is generally a little bit shorter than the rows below it. So that's the bones of the layout sorted. I know my photo is going on the left. I've got my ruffles, which are actually going to form a bit of a base for my embellishment cluster. That's there on the right. It's now just a matter of auditioning embellishment pieces. I am going to work largest to smallest. I'm working through the chipboard pack here and I have emptied it out onto my desk on the right there. You'll see the little bowl that's just out of camera. Anytime that I exclude a chipboard piece, it goes into the bowl. That allows me to focus on the elements that I know will work. I get overwhelmed when I have too many possible choices that I can make, so I do find that excluding elements really helps in speeding up my design process. This embellishment pack is a really good example of it. I started with almost a full pack here, and one by one I'm making really quick decisions to exclude elements. I think I was only left with maybe 4 or 5 pieces that I thought could work, and that really helps me to focus in on those. It's time to pull out another punch. This one is a very basic heart shape. I'm going to punch out 4 or 5 of these and run them along the top edge of those banner pieces. I felt like it just needed a little extra detail there, and I do love creating with my paper punches. They are such a great way to extend your stash. You don't need nearly as many embellishments when you can just punch out as many hearts as you like. Have you been using your paper punches much lately, or have they been hidden in a drawer? Let me know in the comments below what your favorite punch is, because I might need to add it to my stash. I am going to continue to build out the layout from this section. My photo isn't stuck down yet, so I need to get that sorted. I don't want to do it though until I have nutted out this embellishment cluster. I really want the cluster to nestle into the photo, that right-hand edge there. So it will take a little bit of fussing, and I'll need to know exactly where everything is placed before I stick my photo down. I'll have a think about that while I work on this section of the layout. Everything on the page is linked, even if it's not touching each other. So it is important to know exactly where you're going before you glue things down. I'm going to stick with that scalloped element there on the right of the photo. I like that it's got scallops because it ties into the scallops on those punched borders, as well as the tops of the hearts. They all have a similar shape, and that helps tie everything together. Did you notice that I glued my photo down with liquid adhesive? I don't know what I was thinking, because I would never normally do that. I would normally just use double-sided tape and then keep the liquid adhesive for my embellishments. So continuing on with the embellishment clusters, I know I want to bring in a few more elements that are rounder in nature. I do have a lot of rectangular shapes happening here with the text in the background, my photo, and those banner strips. So the elements I'm pulling in now, I want to have a more curved feel about them. I do like these super cute little presents though. I like too that they fit with the horizontal flow of the page. I love the little birdie too that's perched just above my photo. I did find this super cute little banner that I can't wait to use. I love that it links the little bird to the presents on the right. I will lock into position these top elements first though. I just want to make sure I know exactly where they're going to be placed. I've popped a few of the elements here up on foam tape just for a little bit of extra dimension. Things are certainly getting serious because I am gluing stuff down. It was at this point that I remembered the collection has puffy stickers. I love the different textures texture and dimension that these add to a project, so I am going to find a couple that I can nestle in here. The layout is getting closer to complete, but it does feel to me as if it still needs a sprinkling of something. This is a random pack of chipboard pieces that I have in my collection. I don't have any other of the matching supplies for this, but a couple of the pieces in here are going to be perfect for this page. I'm going to go with this piece that says photo opportunity, as well as some cute little snowflake icons. I'm going to use those in the same way that I would use enamel dots and just sprinkle them around the page. I'm going to end up using 7 because that is one of my favorite numbers when scrapbooking. I did make a video on that. I'll leave that in the description box below. With those in place, that's the layout complete. I especially love embellishment clusters that nestle in together like this. It's all just so fun. I know you love to see close-up images, so I'll be sure to leave them here. You can see the layers of the cut file and the stitching details, and then of course all of those paper strips layered up to create the ruffle. I feel like it's been a whirlwind 10 days. I have made so many Christmassy projects. I was thinking though, while I still have my punches on my desk and these paper scraps kicking around, why not make one last scrapbook layout? I want to use a super simple paper punch that we all have to create a feature element for my page. Be sure to watch that video next, and I will see you all again very soon. Until then, bye!